22 January 2020, a medieval lamb stared into millions of phones, round eyes, a frontal gaze, memes, jokes, outrage. For a few frantic days, the internet decided a 15th century masterpiece had been ruined. By the end of this video, you'll know why that face was always there, why we missed it for centuries, and what this shock says about how we look at art. The story begins in Ghent, Belgium, and it ends with a simple choice between comfort and truth. To begin, the core thesis. The restoration of the Ghent Altarpiece forced modern viewers to confront the strangeness Jan van Eyck intended, and the uproar says more about our expectations than his brush. The work at the center is the Ghent Altarpiece, also called the Adoration of the Mystic Lamb. It was completed in 1432 and installed in St. Bavo's Cathedral in Ghent. It is a polyptych, hinged panels that open and close with liturgical rhythm. When open, it spans roughly 300 centimeters tall by 461 centimeters wide, a wall of oak boards, linen, ground, and oil glazes that still silences a church. Its commissioners, Jules Vide and Elizabeth Borluut, wanted grandeur and salvation in wood and paint. They hired the Van Eyck brothers, Hubert for conception, Jan for execution, to deliver both. Why it matters is straightforward. Van Eyck accelerated oil painting into a precise, luminous instrument. Fabrics gleam, gold threads catch light, a pearl feels cold. He observed the world and translated it into layers of resin and pigment with a fidelity that changed northern art. The altarpiece is a summit of that transformation and a matrix of meaning. Prophets and sibyls, the Annunciation, a celestial choir, Adam and Eve rendered with uncomfortable realism, and below them a cosmic landscape where pilgrims converge on a radiant altar. The subject is redemption. The method is specificity. The stakes are high because this object has survived iconoclasm, Napoleonic plunder, a Nazi theft and storage in an Austrian salt mine, and anxious restorations. It is studied by conservators, art historians, chemists, and believers. When a team in the 2010s promised to return it closer to Van Eyck, the promise touched a nerve. We were about to discover whether we prefer the familiar version of history or the more complicated original. Next, a brief arc of origins. Around the mid-1420s, the project starts in the Ghent parish, then known as St. John's. On May 6, 1432, the altarpiece is documented as complete and installed. The upper interior shows a traditional deesis, a majestic central figure, read variously as God the Father or Christ in Majesty, flanked by the Virgin Mary and John the Baptist. On either side, angels sing and play instruments with convincing mechanics, organ pipes mapped, keys pressed, air imagined. At the far ends, Adam and Eve stand, lifelike and unidealized. Below, 5 continuous panels will build one of the most ambitious landscapes painted to that date. Streams run clear, city spires rise in the distance. At the center, on an altar, stands the Lamb of God, its breast open, blood streaming into a gold chalice. A dove hovers above. Groups arrive from every direction: apostles, martyrs, hermits, rulers, scholars, and pilgrims, like rivers of humanity converging in a green basin. It is both narrative and liturgy. Closed, the altarpiece is more intimate, prophets and sibyls up top, Gabriel and Mary conducting the Annunciation across a Flemish room with white cloths and wooden shelves. The donors kneel below, flanked by saints, painted in grisaille to resemble sculpture. The object toggles between public spectacle and private prayer. Through the centuries it travels, separated, stolen, recovered. In 1794, French troops seize central panels. In 1945, Allied troops recover the work from a salt mine. By the mid-20th century, it returns to Ghent, bearing layers of grime, darkened varnish, and overpaint applied by earlier hands, correcting damage and taste. That history sets up the modern restoration, and the shock. At the center of our tour is scale and structure. Open, the altarpiece reads as 12 interior panels arranged in 2 registers. The upper tier holds 7 vertical compartments, the lower 5 panels united by 1 horizon. This is architecture in paint. The proportions let Van Eyck play long horizontal distances against stately upright figures. The whole is a balanced grid. Every hinge serves the narrative. Light holds it together. It falls through imagined air, hits polished metal, scatters on velvet, and dims under archways. Van Eyck modulates it with a chemist's patience. Transparent glazes over opaque layers to generate depth that seems optical. Greens in the lawn are cool and humid. Reds in the papal cope of the central figure are saturated and thick. Gold filigree is built with painted illusion, not gold leaf, then sharpened with highlights that feel engraved by light itself. Move closer and surfaces speak. Flesh is modeled with thin, warm glazes over pale underpaint to push veins and pores under translucent skin. Hair is drawn hair by hair, with squirrel hair brushes and steady hand. Marble veins snake with geological plausibility. Instruments are not symbols alone, they are playable machines with strings, tuning pegs, and keys. Posture and gaze tell theology. The enthroned figure faces front, blessing. Mary reads, her book weighty, her robe pooling in optical folds. John the Baptist leans slightly forward, mouth parted as if mid-sermon. Angels sing with raised brows, cheeks puffed by breath. Adam and Eve are modeled from life, their stance delicate, their bodies bearing gravity rather than idealized form. And then that lower center, the Lamb. The altar's antependium carries a Latin text from John 1:29. Angels surround with censers and instruments of the Passion. The chalice receives a steady stream of blood, neither gory nor sentimental, simply inevitable. The fountain of life flows in the foreground. In the distance, a radiant city suggests the New Jerusalem. For an anchoring comparison, think of Van Eyck's Man in a Red Turban from 1433, a small panel in London whose subject stares straight out with clear, forward-set eyes. That direct, almost confrontational address is part of Van Eyck's language. He used it in portraits to create a dialogue with the viewer. He used it here, unexpectedly, on an animal that stands for a person. A last practical note for scale lovers. The central adoration of the Mystic Lamb panel measures about 134 per 237 centimeters. That is a dining table of painted grass and angels. The altarpiece's size and modular architecture shape how it reads in the cathedral, a set of windows that open onto a world sharper than ours. Meanwhile, the risk of misreading is real. If we mistake a later repaint for the original, we form arguments about style and meaning on a false premise. We praise a softness that wasn't intended. We call an image symbolic because it is hazy under old varnish, when in fact it was once razor clear. The investigative goal is simple: separate Van Eyck's hand from centuries of intervention. How did the team move it? With imaging and patience. Conservators at Belgium's Royal Institute for Cultural Heritage used X-ray radiography to see joins and nail holes, infrared reflectography to reveal underdrawing in carbon, macrophotography and microscopy to inspect cracks in film material, and imaging spectroscopy to map pigments and binders across the surface without touching it. They tested solvents in microzones to identify what would soften a 16th century overpaint without harming 15th century oil. They worked with scalpels under magnification, flake by flake. The restoration unfolded in phases. From 2012 to 2016, the exterior panels, the closed view, were cleaned and studied, revealing remarkably fresh color under a thick veil. 2016 to 2019, work moved to the lower interior register, including the Lamb. Then in January 2020, the restored lower panels returned to St. Barvo's. In 2023, a final phase began on remaining interior panels at the Museum of Fine Arts, Ghent, allowing visitors to watch the work through glass as if the lab were a stage. One vivid clue had teased the future for decades. Older restorations had removed green overpaint around the lamb's head, exposing the original, smaller ears beneath the later set, so photographs showed a creature with 4 ears. That oddity hinted that the head seen by generations was not Van Eyck's. The recent campaign finally took the risk of lifting the later face to reveal the true one. This is the triad that matters: scan, compare, reveal. Cross-sections under the microscope confirmed a later paint layer. IR and X-ray images aligned with earlier compositional contours. When the overpaint lifted, the underlayer wasn't simply different, it was precise, finished, and emphatically intentional. Now, the climax. When the team cleared the last veil from the lamb's head, a face emerged with large, almost human eyes set forward, a shorter muzzle, and ears aligned to that different skull shape. The pupils look out directly at the worshipper. The mouth is subtly modeled, almost pursed. The expression feels alert, not cute, not calm, present. To 16th century sensibilities, that presence may have felt too direct. Someone repainted a gentler, more animal profile over it. That later face, with sideways gaze and lengthened snout, became the traditional lamb. Textbooks were built on it, postcards were printed, pilgrims prayed before it. When the original returned in late 2019 and hit headlines in January 2020, the rupture was immediate. Screens filled with split images before and after. Some compared it to awkward restorations elsewhere. Others laughed, called it humanoid, even eerie. The jokes were fast because the shock was real. At the center of Western painting, a familiar symbol suddenly looked back. But under the flood of opinions, the evidence held steady. The forward-facing eyes are Van Eyck's design language. The contour lines match his underdrawing. The paint sits on the ground in the layer sequence expected for his hand. The crispness of edges, the transparency of glazes, the motion of the brush, these are his signatures. The team did not invent a face. They restored one. And with that recognition, the image turns. The Lamb is a stand-in for Christ, fully human and fully divine. A gaze that meets ours belongs to that meaning. The intensity is theological before it is aesthetic. What felt at first like a meme is, in fact, iconography returning to form. Finally, the deceleration. The public reaction ranged from fury to fascination. Some museums celebrated the newfound details and lighter palette. Rioters defended the face as both majestic and historically right. Pilgrims stood a little longer. Scholars recalibrated lectures and captions. The wider reframing is quiet but profound. We had been looking at an edited Van Eyck. This is where the thesis lands again. Restorations aren't cosmetic. They are historical arguments in action. The question isn't whether a lamb should look normal. The question is whether we will accept what an artist in 1432 wanted us to confront, a gaze that closes the distance between symbol and viewer. The restoration changed nothing about that intention. It changed our access to it. There is also a practical legacy. The project's open data, macro images, scans, and time-lapse documentation are now public, turning one cathedral object into a global classroom. It sets a benchmark for transparency in conservation, and it reminds us that earlier corrections were often sincere, sometimes skillful, and occasionally misleading. The goal isn't to shame the past, it's to read it clearly. So what's at stake? If we keep the softened version because it's easier, we lose precision, we lose the artist's edge. If we embrace the original, even when it unsettles us, we agree to meet history on its own terms. That is the point of looking closely. Now the choice is yours.